Hello and welcome to the next episode. You are listening to the Waygookin, and I do blogs, and podcasts based on my experiences about Korea and Korean American culture from the eyes of an outsider, aka a Waygookin. You can read my blog posts on my website, WaygookinWay.com. That is WaygookinWay.com. For questions, comments, or concerns, you can always email me at contact@WaygookinWay.com. So in the last episode, I talked about traveling to Korea and looking at it from a monetary standpoint, as far as should you use cash, what you should know about using credit and debit cards in South Korea, how you can prepare for using cash, getting cash in Korea, and so forth. In this episode, it's going to be more of a discussion about flying to Korea and hotel accommodations in Korea as well. So, as most of you should know by now, South Korea, or the Republic of Korea, is a peninsula. Pretty much it should be an island because there's only one land border for South Korea, and that's the border with North Korea. And it's well documented why there are two Koreas at this point. But the other boundaries, the east, west, and southern boundary, is surrounded by water. So if you're going to Korea, more than likely you'll be flying there, unless you're in China or Japan and you're taking a boat over to Korea. So what should you know about flying to Korea? If you're going to fly to Korea, as most of you are, as an international flight, you will need to have a passport. Now, some airlines will not allow you to book a flight that is an international flight unless you enter your passport number. And for those that will allow you to book, they will at some point contact you to ask you for your passport number. Your passport does need to be a valid passport, which means you need to have at least 6 months available on your passport when you enter the Republic of Korea. So, the reason for that is they don't want a situation where a person comes to Korea, maybe they have 1 month left on their passport, but they're staying for 2 months. Then their passport is expired and they cannot enter into their country of origin, which means that they're stuck pretty much at the airport. So that's why you need at least 6 months on your passport before you can enter Korea. So definitely check that. If you are in the United States, there are two passports for U.S. citizens. There is a passport book and a passport card. The passport card is for entering places like Mexico and Canada via a car. It was specifically designed when it became a requirement that you needed to show your passport to enter to and from those countries as a U.S. citizen, so that people who say lived in a place like Detroit or Buffalo and worked in Canada didn't have to have their passports stamped all the time and constantly order passport books. That passport card is not good for air travel. So when traveling to Korea from the United States, you will have to have a passport book. So if you're in the U.S. and you do not have a passport book, you will need to order one of those. Now, the processing time on that depends on where you're at and how you get it. Typically, 4 to 6 weeks is going to be the time to get your application processed. The best way to process your application, you can go on the post office's website for the U.S. and you can get the forms downloaded as PDF, type in all the necessary information, print it out, and then bring that along with your fee and the other documentation that you need to the post office so that they can process it. There are stories of certain post offices in certain locations where if you get there super early in the morning, they can possibly process your passport and get it to you the same day. Don't necessarily count on that. You'll need to contact the post office in your area to see which ones will potentially do that. Most areas don't have a post office that does that. Some post offices do not have anybody that is able to process passport applications. Others maybe have one person, so you have to get there while they're there. And if they're helping other people, then you gotta wait on them. But you have to talk to that specific person. Sometimes that person's job ends at 3 in the afternoon as well, which means you need to go in the morning time. You need to have to remember that they get an hour off for lunch, so that definitely is something that you need to keep in mind. Check with your post office, see if that person works on the weekends, or if this is something you're going to have to do during the week. But definitely the recommendation is to have a valid passport before booking your plane ticket to South Korea. When getting the airline ticket, definitely beforehand, if the airline you're using has some type of loyalty program, definitely sign up for that and be logged into that account before you book your plane ticket. That way, any bonus miles that they give people, you will earn, and then those do add up, and you can eventually use those miles for future tickets to Korea as well. So sign up for any rewards program. If you are going to use a travel credit card and it's one from an airline, make sure that airline can get you to Korea. Use that card, that way you get bonus miles for that as well. As far as your experience in airports, if you're in the United States, a lot of that's going to depend on what location you are in the United States. There's a number of international airports that have direct flights to Seoul. Others you will have to have a layover somewhere. So it just depends on the airline and depends on the location where you're at. For some layovers, your layover will be in the United States. For other people, there could be a layover in Canada. If you're a U.S. citizen flying to Korea and your layover's in Canada, more than likely it's going to be in Vancouver. Unless you're somewhere on the far eastern part of the U.S., your layover could be in Toronto and then have a direct flight. For some flights, the layover is in Tokyo, Japan. So that's something that you'll definitely want to keep in mind. If you're somewhere west of Korea, flying east to get to Korea, you may perhaps have a layover in Beijing, China, or maybe in a place like Hong Kong. So definitely check that out. When you're booking your flight, see how long the layover is going to be, because for international flights, especially when the plane is full, you will have a longer time trying to get onto the plane. When you're getting onto the plane that is going to go to Korea, they will typically check your passport before they will allow you on the plane. And that's because once you get to Korea, you're going to have to show that passport and have it stamped. So definitely be cooperative and do the best that you can to have all your stuff ready. As far as getting through airport security, typically, if you have a driver's license or a government ID, you don't have to show your passport at security, but your passport can serve as a picture ID at airport security. When you are on the plane, you may be given a paper that you need to fill out, and it is a customs declaration saying that you're not bringing things in illegally, whether it's drugs, any type of alcohol, weapons, or any pets, livestock, which sounds weird, but just to make sure that there aren't any problems, you'll fill that out. And then when you get to customs agents, you will show that along with your passport. Your passport book will be looked over, make sure that it is a valid passport, and then an entry stamp will be given onto your passport. Your entry stamp will have the date that you arrived in Korea. For most countries, you have 90 days to be in Korea if you're on a passport. And so when you leave Korea, that date will be stamped in your passport as your exit stamp to show that you left Korea within the proper time period. As far as when you get to Incheon International Airport, you get your bags, you have your passport stamped, and you leave. Incheon International Airport is on an island, literally. So on that island, there are two roadways. There's a road that leaves the airport and goes southeast. There is a road that leaves the airport and goes northeast. To leave Incheon International Airport, you have to pay a fee in one way or another. So if you're renting a car, then you have to pay to take the toll booth out of Incheon International Airport. If you are renting a car because you plan to drive in Korea, that does take a special type of insurance for international driving. And so you do need to contact your car insurance company so that you'll be covered with insurance while driving in South Korea, which if you're going to be in Seoul, you probably will want that quite a bit. So definitely talk to your insurance company about driving insurance if you plan to drive while you're in South Korea. If you don't want to drive, you can pay to take the subway out of Incheon International Airport, and then the subway will take you to various locations. If you are staying at a major hotel in Seoul, there are what's called limousine buses. Now, that might sound like this luxury bus. It is not a luxury bus, but it is a bus that will go to certain goos. A goo is a particular part of Seoul. So instead of how some cities are divided up, you can consider a goo like a borough. So for those of you familiar with New York City, you have the borough of Brooklyn, the borough of Manhattan, the borough of Queens. In Korea, it's considered goos. So there is Jongno-gu, there is Gangnam-gu, there is Dobong-gu. For the entire region of Seoul, there's many different goos. So in this case, we'll say Gangnam-gu. There is a specific bus that will leave Incheon International Airport. The cost, it'll vary. I believe it's around 15,000 won, so close to $15 US. Definitely go to Incheon International Airport's website to check what the cost will be. But when you get on this limousine bus, it's basically a coach bus. You get on. Because it's a bus and it's ran by the city, they don't have to pay any type of toll, so you're not charging anything extra. This bus will basically go and stop at every major hotel that is in Gangnam. So definitely check with a hotel if you're staying in one to see if you can take a bus from the airport directly to the hotel. As far as going back to the airport, the bus schedule can vary, so you'll want to check with the front desk to see if there is an approximate time that you can expect the bus, just to make sure that you get there to the airport in time. The other thing you need to keep in mind, traffic will vary, so if it's rush hour, it can take longer for you to get to the airport. So definitely keep that in mind, especially if you're rushing for a flight or if you have to be at the airport extra early. As far as hotels go, some are near subway stations, so you may be able to use navigation to get to hotels via the subway. Otherwise, I would say limousine bus, if it'll take you there, is the best way to go. There are taxis that will take you from Incheon all the way over to whatever area of Seoul you're staying in, but depending upon traffic, it could take over an hour, and that will cause you to pay an astronomical rate potentially. So I don't recommend taxi service or car service unless you're just don't care and you're writing it off, or you're pretty sure that there's going to be very little traffic, so you won't have to pay as much for your ride. As far as hotel accommodations, most hotels do have somebody there that speaks English, and if you want to, you can contact the hotel ahead of time and arrange for them to charge your credit card early. You will have to fill out some paperwork and send it back to them, authorizing them to charge your credit card. But that's definitely something to consider if you're wanting to pay for things in advance. Search around. There's different hotel websites like Hostels.com, Travelocity, where you can get reviews on hotels, see pictures, decide where you're going to stay. If you belong to a rewards program such as a Marriott or a Hilton, then definitely use their website and see what's available. If you need a place to stay but you don't want to spend the money for a hotel, there are hostels. Hostels do vary in rate depending upon your situation, so there are some that are very cheap, but it'll be more like being in a dormitory and sleeping on a bunk bed, so you may or may not want to do that. Other hostels, you'll have your own private room, your own private bathroom, and those do cost more. There's also Airbnb in Korea, so you can use that option as well, and some people will really enjoy that. So, as far as accommodations, you do have options. Definitely look around, see how close it is to what you want to do, and see what the price is going to be overall. So, definitely play around with different things, but plan ahead. That way, you won't have as much stress and you'll have a lot of fun when you're in Korea. The plane ride will probably be long, so definitely do things to keep yourself comfortable. If you're a person who doesn't typically pay more for your seat, definitely consider doing so. If you need extra leg room, then the exit row, or that might be the time to splurge for a first class seat. As far as hotels go, some hotels in Korea do offer a free breakfast, so if you're trying to choose between hotels, definitely take a look at that, because if there is a free breakfast option, that will save you money on one meal a day, which can add up. So, just some people are not aware of that. Also, most hotels are going to be modernized, so if you have an issue where you're concerned about toilets because of squatter toilets, typically you're not going to worry about that in a hotel in Korea. So, don't worry about that at all. But definitely just some things to consider. If you have any questions, again, you can reach me at my email, contact@WaygookinWay.com. That's contact at WaygookinWay.com. You can also reach me on social media. The links will be in the description box. Thanks again for listening. If this helps, definitely share it with a friend or family member looking to go to Korea. But also, please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for listening, and as always, remember, the best way to get rid of your nightmares is to live out your dreams. Goodbye.